afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for this particular lecture. My name's Jennifer Obaseki and I'm the founder of Obaseki Solicitors. It's a practice in East London. We're an award-winning practice and been around now for 16 years. So today I'm going to talk to you about the difficulties some of the businesses may be experiencing during this pandemic and what steps we can take in order to accelerate our businesses. So I've prepared a PowerPoint for you today, and I'll just take you through some of the slides. I hope you can all see that. Wonderful. Right, so as I've said, we're an award-winning practice based in East London, and the areas that we deal with are property law, business, family law. We also have a legal aid contract for family, but we also deal with private divorce, financial settlement, child arrangements. We also are an award-winning company with regards to immigration and have reported cases. And criminal law, we only do on a private basis and we have an excellent success rate. And when you do private law with regards to crime, when you win, you actually get your fees back. And so you get reimbursed by your lawyer. And we also deal with civil litigation. And as well as that, we are able to deal with all your commercial arrangements. Now, how do you really get your business to accelerate, especially in a time like this where there's a pandemic, and grow and have economic strength? These questions are really difficult. Now, you need to appreciate the fact that as a community, we are stronger together. And they say, as you know, the black pound goes right out of the circulation of our economy quite quickly. So one of the things I wanted to do within this particular session is to encourage us to appreciate our community and to strengthen the black community's economic power. But when you're doing that, you also have to think about some of the challenges we face. So collectively, we have to sit down and try to stamp out racism and bad practice. People will come to you if you have good custom, good standards. So we also have to then think about making sure we are educated, making sure we are joining our professional associations, making sure we also know our rights, our legal rights. It's important for us to have leaders as we try to make sure that we achieve these goals, mentors, sponsors, and actually key decision makers that are actually at the table, outlining our interests, outlining what our hurdles are, so that there are policies in place that support us growing as a black community. Within our community, we also have the underground economy, a lot of cash in hand things, but at the same time, that underground economy, it's not going anywhere fast, but it's important to protect workers who are working within it. And it's also important for us to get really deep foots in the digital economy. So that's all about educating ourselves, making sure that we are as savvy as the others, as our competitors, and making sure that we also have excellent policy and protections around the digital space. And we've also got to be real about our skills. I'm no digital or technical queen, and I have my own challenges, and I'm learning. But yes, we have to get people in at times, we have to collaborate. But when you are collaborating, you've got to be real. You've got to know your truth, know your limits. And you've also got to think about your terms of engagement. Manage your expectations and what others can actually offer you. Check out their ability. So set out terms of engagement if you're working with others. Have a strategy. Make sure you have a structure with your union or your collaboration. Make it formal if it's a really important business arrangement. And know that there is strength in numbers. You move faster when you do work with others, especially if you have those set parameters of engagement, contract, terms, all in place. And within the digital space, you've got to think about what happens after the event or the engagement as well. Who owns the data? Who owns the money? What proportions? How they're being divided up? When is payment? Things like that need to be sorted out. So yes, one of the reasons that I was asked to help you today, or talk to you today rather, is because I do have a degree in law and economics combined. So my foundation in economics actually started in West Africa, where I first studied the subject, but I ended up doing the degree here in Middlesex University. And yes, as a mum and who has a business and 5 wonderful kids, I do end up juggling. So I'm very much used to the parameters and hurdles that exist around person in business, both here and also on the continent. So if you're in business right now with Brexit and all that's happening with the global changes and the pandemic and being stuck in different regions of the world, you must have a global mindset to your business. If you're operating in the United Kingdom, you should have distribution partners on the continent. If you are trying to bring goods in from abroad, you have to think about the new caveats for importation, or if you're sending things abroad, you need to think about the licenses and what you need to be doing with HM Customs and what changes are coming into place. So generally, you have to make sure that you are making best use of what legal rights you have to move around at the moment, and making sure that if you have distribution partners, agents, etc. abroad, that you have proper agreements. Really check out as to how leaving the EU is going to impact your business. And even if you're online, you may have impacts on your business due to Britain leaving the European Union. It's a new economic frontier. See this as an opportunity. You must be thinking about brand Britain and what you operating in the United Kingdom acts as a, let me say, as a unique point to your business, but still have that global mindset. So maximize your saleability because of your location. I've talked about structures before, so making sure that those collaborative agreements are tight, but also know your rights. If you're here, there are government grants that are available to you if you've been affected by the global pandemic. HMR Revenue have provisions. So go online, even if you type into Google COVID-19 finance, COVID-19 funding, you'll be leaded to the .gov website where you'll be able to look at what provisions are there. Again, if you're on a 0 hours contract or you're self-employed, there is also provision for you. So you've got to look at your eligibility. And we also have to think about protections, because if you're on salaries and if you are on those 0 contracts, it's difficult. But I will say to you that, number one, if you're an agency worker, you can still negotiate for you to have the furlough hours. It depends on how your agreement is structured. So don't think that you're not eligible for furlough just simply because you are an agency worker. Secondly, if you're being selected for redundancy, because it is still a difficult time, then you have to look at how the redundancy process was made, whether it was fair, and if you feel you have any challenges or grievances, get some employment advice on that particular topic. Employment law and also property law in the next few months post-pandemic are actually going to be busy areas. Generally, I must say, after a new year, family law is also a very busy area. But because of the pandemic particularly, we are going to see the need for advice along contracts and employment law. Then us as Black people, we have to think about our rights and access to justice generally. Over the last few months, we've seen with the NSARS movement, Black Lives Matter, that knowing your rights when it comes down to association or being in the presence of police or even perpetrators, it's very important. And knowing what your pathways to accessing justice are. So again, looking at really just police, they can't just stop you randomly. They can't just search you either. They must have general grounds or reasonable suspicions that a crime has been perpetrated or is about to be committed. Neither can they just access your property, they must have a warrant, and the warrant has to be very specific, either to a car or to an address. And even if it goes to an address, it must be specific to a specific location, unless, especially for example, if you're renting rooms, for example, it might not be specific, it might just apply to the whole house. So again, if it doesn't specify specific things and you feel the warrant should be challenged, please do so or get advice on doing so. Okay. Now, going on to the next slide. You must identify areas that will ensure financial stability. You cannot grow economically, you cannot accelerate unless your business is financially stable. Now, there's no specific definition as to what financial stability means, but it really outlines to the perfect financial position that your business is in order to move forward. But we have to think about the other factors that actually affect financial stability. So knowing who is around you, knowing what the plan is, knowing what your strategic plan is, not just your 12-month plan, but where is your business supposed to be in the next 3 years? How are you reviewing that? How do you make sure that stays on track? So looking at your expenses, your overheads, your capital, your investors, balance sheets, etc., extremely important. The one thing that we should be looking at in this situation with regards to contracts is force majeure, whether there are contracts that cannot be executed due to the pandemic, whether they're not enforceable, how many lockdowns are going to affect our work pattern and workflow, digitalization, other distractions that may be occurring as a result of the pandemic. So that includes sickness within your workforce, etc. So budget, plan. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble during this particular period. Now, in order to make sure that there is that ability to accelerate, once you've reached a position of financial stability, then you have to really have in your mind growth, targets. So if you don't put targets or rates or manage or even monitor your growth rates, how can you be sure that you are growing towards that acceleration? So you must be mindful of the fact that these targets must be realistic and they must be things that are clear to see. You can't just have pie in the sky aims. So have a process where it's easy to scale, where these things can be known to everybody in the workforce, what they should be aiming to do, that this business has a plan to move or hit this target by a certain period of time. Okay? And it's hard. You, as a manager, as somebody who's even doing the day-to-day work in your business, it's very hard to forget these particular things. So in order for you not to forget them, you must make sure that you're revisiting your plan and also making sure that when you have certain alliances with people, again, they know what the target is. As well as you doing the work, know what the overall target is and have that in your mind. So, and then again, if you're thinking of expansion and people knowing your brand, knowing your services, you have to market. You can't just rely on word of mouth or on other people promoting you. So you have to have a marketing plan in place. But when it comes down to marketing, it is a bit of a tricky subject. You have to put effort and money into it, but it can't just be pie in the sky. You must have a marketing plan. It must be real. You must include an online and digital pathway for that. And once you do the online and digital pathway, again, it must be achievable. You can't just pay hundreds into SEO or something like that. There has to be the platforms where you know your customers are going to be. So again, you've got to network, you've got to digitalize, and then you've got to network some more. Because once you realize that you're on a little growth path, you see what's coming in, you've already got your financial stability, then it's time to think, okay, now this business is stable and growing, how do I accelerate? How do I ride off that momentum? And when you are able to actually put your foot down, it shows that you're in total control of your business. But before you actually put your foot right down, there are some things that you do actually need to be aware of. Now, some of the things that you need to be aware of are the Equality Act. Now, it's important that people, as I said, don't discriminate against you. We've had reports, so many reports that outline there is basically racism within our community. And you see, when you have racism within institutions, when you have systemic racism, it's sometimes hard to prove. When racism is ingrained in a culture, you then find yourselves being rejected or turned down on bids and contracts and not really knowing why. So outlining or requesting for transparency and responses is actually your right. You can get feedback. And if you do find that there are inappropriate or malpractice, you can equally make a complaint. So the Equality Act is there to protect us. There is different forms of discrimination, as I've explained. It can be direct, it can be indirect, there can also be harassment and victimization, all of which are not correct, and you must be confident enough to stand up and call racism out, basically. Now, you must also be aware of the legal changes that are going to be taking place. I've mentioned Brexit bill, the withdrawal agreement that is still not concluded as of today, the 5th of December. But we also have to think about other pieces of legislation that are coming into play post-pandemic. One of them is going to be the immigration bill. There's new legislation around immigration that relates to those who are working and coming in from abroad. So those of you who have businesses that might require foreign workers, know that the financial threshold for engaging them has been reduced. Know that you still need to do your all work test, but also know that the government has also expanded on the key groups of jobs that fall into shortage category here. So during the pandemic, there was the boost and requirement for medical workers, doctors and nurses. But now, post-pandemic and post-Brexit, it's important for you to know that there have been changes around the immigration rules. That is for the points-based immigration, students, and again, around those who are coming in for investment. So please, please know your rights around that. There have been challenges, and I'll say this on the side with regards to Windrush. Many may know that a senior director resigned recently, outlining that she considers the policies discriminatory. Obviously, the amounts that are being offered in compensation are derisory. There have been lots of challenges as to who qualifies as a family member under the Windrush scheme. But most importantly, it's important for you to know that many people qualify for Windrush, not just because they were here during the 70s, but also extended family members also qualify for leave to remain under the Windrush scheme. So if you feel you're affected by that and either entitled to compensation, do seek legal advice and support. And an organisation called Windrush Legal Angels are actually offering extremely good help and support, legal and as well as holistic support through social workers and mental health support for those victims of the Windrush scheme. Now, if you are also subject to immigration control, again, you may get help with your immigration fees. You can apply for a fee waiver. That means that you do not pay the immigration fees as a result of your economic circumstances. And you can also apply for change of conditions on your leave to remain. So that means if you've been granted leave to remain in the United Kingdom, but you have restrictions on your ability to claim benefits, you may be able to apply for that to be changed. And as we know, during this pandemic period, it's been economically hard on many, many families. So if you're struggling, do not be quiet. Apply for the changes to be made or for the fees to be waived on your application. I did speak previously about the government grants that are available. Also look to your local councils. Apart from the grant that was given to people, there's other forms of business rate relief that you can apply for and discretionary payments. So please, please look at what is available for you. Okay, now, don't let discrimination be, you know, it's a distraction, we know that. But don't let it derail your focus. Don't let it derail you. Believe me, even in court, I experience discrimination. If it's the rolling of eyes, touching of teeth, not pronouncing my name, thinking I'm the client or thinking I'm the not a lawyer. We've all, especially many Black lawyers go through this. So that doesn't stop us from winning our cases. It never has stopped me. In short, it lights a fire in my belly. So please, please, if you have been the victim of bad treatment, never let that completely derail you. Okay. Now, over a third of BAME people surveyed felt that they've been bullied, harassed, or singled out for unfair treatment in their workplaces. And this is I'm just saying this to show you that you're not alone. People do speak up and out about it, but the one thing we must do, as I said, the communities come together and stamp it out. Now, so when facing challenges, what do we do? It can be very emotionally tough. One is always scared of losing their job or the contract if one complains. But as I've said, we have to have that confidence as a community that right now the world recognizes that Black Lives Matter. And we also need to make sure that policies and procedures are drafted in a way that protect our rights. We're not asking for special treatment, we're asking simply for fair treatment. So look at the contracts and documents within your jurisdiction, make sure they're fair, and if you have a complaint and you don't want to automatically run to litigation, make sure within your contracts and your agreements there's room for arbitration, mediation. And also within contracts generally post-pandemic, people are going to be under strain, they might not be able to deliver. So rather, again, than running to court for litigation for breaches, if you draft documents in a way where there's an arbitration clause or a mediation clause, it makes it a lot easier. And again, if you're feeling the need to terminate an agreement and for some reason you are unable to, let's say, deliver on it, or there's a need to put a caveat or a rider on a contract, you have to think about doing compromise agreements, etc. Other things that are there to protect you that you can refer to: the Equal Pay Act, ask again, as I've said, for a modifying contract. There are different codes of practices, again, that you should be referring to in order to make sure that people are staying within their obligations to you. Okay? So record everything. If there is a disagreement or a level of unfairness, confront it firmly, because it's not trivial, and then follow up with the solution. Many people refer things to lawyers and just think that there's a magic wand. No, you actually have to follow up with your lawyers, make sure best evidence is being provided and information as well. So when it comes down to acceleration, knowledge, policies, procedures, decisions, and then reviewing to make sure you're on the right place, going at the right pace and in the right place is very important. Choosing the right people to work with you is a key thing. Making sure that you've got correct agreements in place with them, non-competition clauses, protection of intellectual property clauses, because we're seeing, especially in this atmosphere of the digital space, people moving from employer to employer, but taking client lists and things like that with them. You must have protections in place, okay? Choose the right person, not just somebody right now. Strengthen your customer base. You should be reaching out to your customers at this time, even if they're not buying from you, letting them know when you're going to be reopening, letting them know your new services in 2021, letting them know you're thinking about them during this pandemic, sending them helpful links so that they know that you care, and they'll remember you when the doors open again and they want to spend their money. So you shouldn't really be thinking about always chasing the new client. Always remember your existing clients. Again, you've got to take these preventative measures. So testing new services, doing risk assessments before you sort of pilot or execute something, really, really important. Again, because of the pandemic, having excuse me, a level of flexibility to what you're doing is important. Have plan Bs, knowing that if somebody pulls out, somebody gets sick, you've still got somebody to distribute your product or prepare your services. Just make sure that you are planning and preparing for the plan B. What if something happens, especially because of the fact that we're coming out of the pandemic and there's going to be this little bit of economic turbulence. Again, you've got to be futuristic. You've got to look at the horizon. You can't just look at the now, and you've got to forecast basically and outline the plans and preparations for not just what's happening now, but what's going to be happening New Year, Easter. So forecast the future of the business, where things are going. I know they always talk about your business plan, but I always say business plan, strategic plan, you should really have both. And then you should also be looking into the future at least 3 months ahead of time and looking at your finances, services, provision, supplies, all for those periods so that there's consistency and no interruption. So a true interpreter, as it says there, does prepare for the future. Acceleration, again, very important, making sure customers are happy. Your customers are your kings and queens, but also getting their feedback will help you. You will know, and it will also highlight issues that you may not be aware of. You might not be aware of how certain members of your staff or your third-party agents might not be delivering on your behalf, and clients not realizing that they can complain to you. And sometimes surveys and questionnaires reveal these hiccups that you might have, not directly from yourself, but from somebody in your delivery or supply chain. And again, making sure you check on how your customers are feeling about your service or services or product is key. And then invest time and money, or put money aside for the futuristic investments plans, because just wishing it is one thing, but actually putting the finances, the structures in place for it to happen is a must. So as we begin to round up, the one thing I must say is you've got to know your value. Appreciate what you bring to the table. Know that it's representative of something. Don't just be grateful to be at the table, but know what you bring to the table. Black employees are, you know, sometimes they are reluctant to ask for promotions. During your appraisals, ask. If you want to move into the legal department in your place of work, ask. Make sure it's noted on your appraisal form. If you want to take time out to study, ask. If it's rejected, at least it's reflected on your appraisal form. Don't let it be in 10 years' time, you're still in the same place, not having a pay rise. Because if you are like that, it might make you feel bad. And if you want to bring a claim for discrimination, when somebody says, did you ask? You want to have the proof to show that you did ask. So don't be afraid to ask the things that you're entitled to. Don't be afraid to celebrate your strengths. Don't be afraid to highlight that. Well, I brought in 20 clients last month and I just want it to be reflected. Is there a bonus scheme? You know, don't be afraid to ask. If some people don't realize, we did a case recently where somebody didn't realize for 2 years there was a bonus scheme and he was paid that money instantly. Again, simply because he didn't ask, but he was the go-to man. Everybody knew that they go to him, he'll fix things. And then on their own tickets, it would look like they had resolved the issue. But he was the one resolving the issue because they knew him as the go-to person. Again, making sure that your work is accurately recorded in your workplace is important. So I hope that these things have been very important, or let me say, interesting bits of information for you to have. And you've got to remember that the aim is for you to thrive, not just survive. We've survived for a long time, but right now you've got to ask for more. Post-pandemic, it's been a hard blow, but right now it's about how you stand up from that, how you step forward and then step up. Stepping up is the acceleration, and right now we want to make sure you're standing and then stepping up. You've got to really realize that you have to want the best for yourself and for your business and those who are helping you achieve within your business. Okay? So in conclusion, it's important that we know our rights. It's important that you use your voice. It's important that you know your value, and it's important that you aim to thrive, not just survive. Okay? So one of the things I'll leave you with, and it's just a thought, is do not be a photocopy. I remember going to a seminar and the lady said, do not be a photocopy. You're always, you're unique. You're not going to be the same as everybody else. So don't always compare yourself and empower yourself. Because if you don't, not necessarily everybody else will. Not everybody will appreciate you. And being unique is not easy, trust me. So sometimes it can make you feel daunted, but just say that you can, you will, and you are. Okay? So I hope that was interesting. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And these are my details on the screen. And also, I have to thank the organizers of this because it's been an amazing day, amazing 2 days, I should say. And I look forward to hearing or seeing you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
My pleasure.
I have a few questions for you. So if you could
Okay.
turn off your PC, that would be great. Ooh, that was wonderful. Thank you. Seriously, there's so much information there. One of the things I wanted to bring back to your attention is that you said we should ramp up visibility. Give us some hints as to how we can do that.
So one of the things that I would say to you is that not everybody can afford lots of digital online marketing plans, etc. But the one thing you can do flyers, you can do text messages, you can send those to your groups, the ones that allow them. You can also think about who's in your network. And if you don't belong to networks, create one. If you don't belong to networks, create your own. Think about who of my church people, who's in business in my church or my mosque, who's on the high street, do I have related services to, who in the family, and then create your own little network and then ask who can disseminate your information. So ramp up your visibility. That might be e-flyers, that might be text messages. I'm not saying go and pay for thousands of pounds worth of adverts, but if you can afford for adverts, don't just throw money away. Have a strategic plan. Where are those adverts going to be placed? Is it going to be on social media? When is it going to appear on social media? What groups is it going to appear on? You've got to have a plan. So think about it. Use what you've got. You don't need to necessarily have to spend thousands and thousands.
Okay. What about strategic alliances? What kind of alliances do you suggest we make?
You've got to think about businesses that complement your own services or product. And then thinking about, can it be sold alongside? Can we promote these things together? As I said, why having 3 hair salons in one row? Why barbershops? Why is one not doing massage? Why is one not doing wig making? Why is the other not just doing the hair salon? Why are they not all working together as a company? Why are you all paying people, paying landlords, it's mad. But it's hard, again, finding people that you trust to collaborate with. So thinking about complementary services and products that will help boost the sale of yours. Saving overheads right now should be where everybody's mind is.
That's very true. That's very true. It's a very good point. I remember hearing about 5 takeaways that were in one street in Norwood, Portland Road. 5 takeaways. I think there's only one left now. You
You
know,
see?
it just goes to show if people work together, then they could build a bigger empire. Now, you talked about experiencing discrimination as a lawyer. I suppose
Yes.
people are surprised because they don't expect that, you know, but you talked
Well,
about being strong and not being derailed by that. Tell us more.
I will talk from a personal perspective. I was in a law firm once where I was training somebody and they started crying. I said, why are you crying? She goes, I just cannot stomach the way they're treating you. And I was like, how are they treating me? She said, well, we've been told not to tell you. Uh, the new people are being paid this amount and we were told not to tell you. And as I looked deeper, I realized that the English people were being paid here, the Asian people being paid here, and the black people being paid right down there. And so I gave my notice in the next day and I was told to be quiet and I was offered £7,000 on the spot. And that was on top of my annual salary, back pay plus what I should have currently. But it was so unsettling. I felt so used because I really was loyal and genuinely gave my everything. And that was a personal experience. And I've had situations, even in court, where I've won applications, where judges been like, what are your costs then? How can you have? And it's like, those are my costs. I've actually been in practice for 18 years. And I know the black don't crack, but I'm not, you know, I'm not a young lawyer. And these are my fee rates. And thank God, you know, the government sets these rates publicly. So, you know, when somebody says, these are my rates, I have to be paid them. And you see the disdain in their eyes and etc. But things are getting better. The SRA is looking into inclusion and diversity in excellent forms. There are lots of roundtables. There's been deep reports that are going to be delivered, and the results of some of them have been discussed with me even personally, but with the SRA. And I'm pleased to see the excellent steps that are being made to ensure equality within the profession.
Ah, that's amazing. So when did you start your own firm, your own law firm?
That was in 2005,
Okay.
in March. So we've been around for 16 years now, if not more. It's been an amazing journey. And I really, really have to thank my amazing team and all of my amazing, amazing clients around the world. And we have, you know, representative offices now in Nigeria and in Hong Kong. So I need one now in the Bahamas. So I'm looking for lawyers within the Caribbean to join our team. Because I need to get, you know, when I'm taking off my slippers and I'm working part-time, I'd like that to be somewhere hot in the Caribbean. But yes, we have a lot of Caribbean clients.
All right, tell us about your team and how many are in the team.
So at the moment we have 12 members of staff here, and we've also got 2 in Nigeria, 1 in Hong Kong. So it's an amazing group, and we have lawyers specializing in their different fields.
Okay. And you're hoping to have a team in the Caribbean as well?
As I've said, we have a lot of clients from the Caribbean. So yes, it would be excellent to have a representative office in Jamaica. Not that I prefer it. You can give me the Bahamas, you can give me Barbados. I'll take any island at all. Thank you.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, whoever's watching and there are any lawyers in those
Jurisdictions, please.
Yeah.
Please do.
Contact Jennifer. All right. So how long did you work in the corporate space then? Because it sounded like you worked for another law firm first before you started your own.
I worked for a total of 4 different law firms before I started my own practice. And one was in West London, 2 were in Northeast London, and then another one was in East London before I actually opened up and been here in East London as well. I started off doing property law and private client, and then I moved into the legal aid arena, but I did a mixed bag of immigration, points-based immigration, family law, and employment law. And then eventually when I qualified, I basically then specialized in immigration and human rights, but also did a lot of private crime and as well as legal aid crime. Then when I opened my own practice in 2005, I have such an array of clients that we've always dealt with those same areas, but then with the requirements of them making sure their business and contract agreement, their commercial arrangements were set up, I delved more into the business space and the commercial space. And again, because of my background with economics, a lot of them just wanted deeper consultations, especially when it came down to establishing brands and businesses. So therefore I started the consultancy element, and it's just grown and been an amazing, amazing journey. I've represented some clients for 20 years plus, and that is just, I'm honored to be able to do that. It's been a pleasure.
Wow, to hold on to clients for 20 years, that is amazing.
Yeah.
That means they love your work, they love you as a person, and your firm has basically come through for them.
It's about results. For me, it's about results. If I'm able to get a client from A, the initial instruction, to B, that is what their desired outcome is, and also do it in a way that allows them to accelerate, allows them to deliver their goals, then that's it for me. And even if it's a case of, again, defending them in a situation where there's been an injustice, and again, achieving them judgment in their favor, again, it's why I get out of bed.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And it looks like you really enjoy your job as well.
I love it.
And I believe you have clients from all nationalities. And I believe you have clients from all nationalities.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Absolutely. From specializing in immigration, from, the Romanian, Polish, Jamaican, African, Asian. Yes. And it's a pleasure. We're in a cosmopolitan society. And as I've said, you've got to have a global mindset. You've got to love humanity. We're all humans. And there are humans on every part of this planet. And guess what? They're all potential customers.
Absolutely. Definitely. It's interesting you said at the beginning of a year, the family law section is quite busy. Why is that?
Yes. And that's really because of tensions over Christmas and decision making over Christmas within families. So whether it's we're going to split, we're going to separate, or we're going to buy a new house, or we want to have a parenting agreement, there's lots of decisions that are made within families over Christmas. Unfortunately, a lot of divorce rates as well. The divorce rate goes high during that period, but again, because of tensions. So just families being together and decisions being made, really.
I suppose also people are starting a new year and they decide that, oh, I've had enough of this year, I need to move on,
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. And you mentioned the term mum on the run, and you have 5 children. How do you manage?
I have a team in the office and a team at home, and my home team, they're really, really cool. I must say to you that At the moment, when I leave the office, I look forward to going home and playing my son's assisted ninja, because he likes ninjas.
Really?
He's into martial arts. He's only 5. So we're like, Mommy, come and be my assistant. And I'm like, oh, I love it. But they're very, very understanding children. They know what Mummy does. They love it. They like the fact that I help people. And they are really, they work together, they collaborate together. If one has a cold, you see one getting a tissue, just they've got a good bond, and I thank God for that.
You think they're going to follow your footsteps and go into law?
Oh, there's one in particular, she already bosses me around. My middle child, who we call Margaret Thatcher, simply because she is bossy. I have a feeling possibly she might. The others, no, the other 2 are a bit more artistic in their views on life.
Okay. Well, it's great, because you're setting a great example for them, you know, and I'm sure they're going to go up and do great things, and you'll be so proud of them too. Thank you for your encouraging words today. I know it's going
to be pleasure. I love doing community events, as probably people who might have seen the name know. As a firm, we love to sponsor community information sessions because it's important. Knowledge is power.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to put your details underneath this video so people can contact your firm directly if they need legal help or advice. And I just want to say thank you so much for appearing in the Black Economics ACES conference.
Excellent 2 days. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Fashion and furnishings.
VU Designs. Fashion and furnishings.
Fashion and furnishings.